But yeah, no, don't drink anymore. No, I'm messing with you. You do whatever you want to do. I told you, I want you to feel comfortable in your space. I'm new here. I'm hanging out with you.
Right.
I'm just waiting. I don't know if it, are they gonna
Are you live? We're started, bro. Let's go. We're on. We're live on both. Hey, what's going on, y'all? I'm doing an interview with Humor Mill.
Yeah, you are. I'm
Man.
Eunice with Humor Mill.
Eunice.
And so I'm doing an interview for Humor Mill with Craig Smith. Thank you so much for having us.
God, God, God. Thank you for having me.
So this is my first time meeting you officially. I'm so impressed with your space.
Thank you.
So one of the first things I want to ask you as a stand-up who seems to be creating a whole new lane for yourself, what inspired you to invest in space, equipment, the setup, from just going from the stage and a microphone?
I felt like my point of view in life was underrepresented in entertainment, specifically comedy. You know, if I'm being brutally honest, I felt like in the world of comedy, it was built on the backs of people who are losers, meaning like the really obese or the really skinny and unattractive or something that's really weird about you. You know what I mean?
And then what's your point of view?
My point of view is the everyday working man. I'm
Okay.
not the best looking guy in the world. I'm not the ugliest guy in the world. I'm just somewhere in the middle. And so I represent people who pay taxes, who may struggle, you know, the man or woman who may love their spouse, but they may be a little bit irritated financially by where they are in life. And, you know, maybe they just their head's a little bit below the water, but they're good people. That's the attitude I represent, which is something that has a little bit more zing to it. You may cuss when you're not supposed to cuss. You may say things that would be blackballable, but you don't really, you know, mean any harm by it. You're just being honest and expressive as to what you really feel inside. And, you know, I try to be the voice of the everyday working person, man, male and female, gay, straight, whatever you are.
So you basically pride yourself on saying the quiet part loud for most of us.
Right. I pride myself in being a part of something bigger than me. So I feel like if I have to say something that makes me the sacrificial lamb for a period of time for people to understand what the hell is really going on, then I don't mind saying that as long as it's something I feel that could help somebody.
So when you say sacrificial lamb, that's kind of like the cancel culture. You're not afraid of being canceled.
No.
Because if this needed to be said and it can help somebody, or if it's what I really feel, then it's worth it.
And I go back to driving trucks and own my own trucking company again. I don't care about none of that.
So when you say you're like the average person, I would say in the short time that in talking to you, I don't think you're the average. You obviously have a really great natural curiosity about things. You know a lot about a lot of things.
Right.
Obviously, well, for me, I feel like to be a stand-up, you have to be intelligent, well-read, well-versed. All comedians are not. What is it that you think when you are reading or studying or learning and you start crafting it into how do I present it? Because whether it's through your streaming or your podcast or on stage, when you have a concept or you learn something and you want to educate us, right?
Right.
Entertainment, do you have a specific way that you decide how do you do that or where you do that?
I do. So there's two comedians who I think were some of the greatest comedians to ever tell jokes. And they didn't really get along. One of them just passed. Name is David Arnold.
Yes.
And one is Corey Holcomb.
Yeah.
Both legendary.
Yes.
But they didn't really get along well. But I learned something from both of them who are dudes I highly respect. David Arnold told me that what is the joke saying? It's not necessarily about the specifics of the joke, but what is the overall moral of the joke? You know what I'm saying? And then Corey Holcomb said, whatever that is, say the opposite.
Okay.
So that's a part of my formula. Is just it's not necessarily about the story; it's about what's being said, and I connect things morally, you know, based on morals and the underlying, as opposed to looking at the obvious. And that's been my whole style of thinking my whole life. But it took me getting into comedy to understand that that's how my brain parallels things based on what it's saying, and not necessarily the obvious shit within what's being said.
So when you're on stage, do you find yourself having to, I don't want to say dumb down, but do you have to make it more digestible for your audience so they can get the point of what you're saying? Because sometimes it's like so nuanced. Or, you know, do you find yourself saying, let me package this in a way more people understand it? Or are you specific to say who gets it, gets it?
No, I don't concern myself with that because I'm building myself from the underground up, which is a strategy that I chose on my own to position myself in a place where I'm standing on a body of work that that I created. You know, I'm just now getting to the point where I want to be like a Marlon Wayans or, you know, a Mike Epps, some of these bigger, talented, legendary comedians. Now that's something that I aspire to. But I spent the last decade plus just figuring out who I am as a comedian, and what I'm trying to say. Because you know, I got a lifetime, you know, to try to be a superstar. If that's in the cards, I really don't give a fuck.
Right.
It's just more about making people laugh. And the reason, one of the early reasons, well, a couple reasons I got into comedy early, because I wanted to make my mom laugh. You know what I mean? So when I always draw from that, because she went through so much as a black woman, trying to, you know, educated black woman, being overly educated and never really being paid or valued at her level. I would always make her laugh when she had her struggles. So that's what I think about when I crack jokes. Is what the hell would make Donna laugh?
I love that.
So I stick to that script, and everybody else could eat a booty.
As you've been in the process, I'm curious, how do you go about finding yourself? It's so different for every person, right? And so you mentioned you used to be in the trucking business, or you obviously are a business-minded entertainer, but what has been that process of finding yourself or finding your voice?
I think for me, it's history, because you know, with this rampant disease that used to be called haters, when it's really narcissism. When I started to understand what that was, it made me more comfortable in realizing, you know, that some of the struggles that I experience are, you know, symptoms of people who have that. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times people are surrounded by narcissists or people who have borderline personality disorder or some of these cluster B disorders. And these people are attracted to empaths or people who are talented. And sometimes they'll,
Lord, ain't they?
ain't they? But sometimes they'll try to knock you off your path because they can see the great in you before you can. So I had to realize even some family or friends, like when I was figuring out who I was, there always somebody who's going to throw a left hook or, you know, try to catch you off guard to knock you off your path. So for me, I just always stay grounded in reality. You know what I'm saying? That's why I go to the gym, because the gym makes me feel what's happening right now. My body burning, you know what I mean? Me being tired, I'm living in the moment right now. So I just try to make sure I live in the moment and I'm honest to every moment, and I try to make that transition into my comedy.
Now, that's exactly why I don't go to the gym, because I'm not trying to feel what I feel right now. But I'll make a note of that. That might be a change. So, you know, the psychology of people, you mentioned narcissism or personality disorder. How much do you play into psychology as a practice, right? Or is it just something someone made up, a concept some white man made up? And, you know, it's a lot of times it's just a natural response to stimuli.
I agree.
You name it.
You know, here's the thing. Everything that we learn is that.
Right.
So, you know, when I say the word narcissism, I'm just referring to a pattern of behavior. Because what you have to realize out there in the world is, like, when you start to do things that are, you know, good and not just average, there are people who don't understand that. And some people don't like the work. They think that you could do the work, and then they come and benefit from your work. So you start to experience things like triangulation, where people who don't work as hard as you or aren't as talented as you try to triangulate your reputation. So they look for people who are important that may be helping you, that could help them, and they'll plant seeds of doubt. This person ain't that funny. You can't trust this person. You know what I mean? And that's why you have to do a lot of work. I think I spit on you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
All right.
I'm a bottle it.
So I think that what you have to realize is that people who depend on politicking and triangulation, they're just people who don't really believe in themselves as much as you do. So it's not personal. So that's why me discovering and understanding narcissism was important, because you have to realize that it's not personal. People who are empty on the inside, they try to use you by any means necessary to fill themselves up. You know what I mean? And when they, when you get angry, they're observing that, and you're actually empowering them. They're plugged into you. So once you understand what that is, you don't take it personal. You just remove yourself as a source, and you keep operating in your same blessing, whatever that is, and you just keep it pushing. You know, and it just helped me not take certain things so personal, because me being blue collar, a construction guy, a truck driving guy, I just wanted to beat people up, like, for the first 5 years, because I didn't understand it.
Right. It wasn't about you.
It was about them. It was about them. So once you realize that, and just realize the cream will rise to the top, and if your heart is right, and you're have good intentions, that will always resonate through, because that's what's most important is really about doing things that other people can benefit from.
So let me just say, just talking to you, I don't feel like this is a popular perspective for a lot of men online, right? You're talking about a certain level of self-awareness. You're talking about being an empath or having an understanding or perspective of where other people are coming from. Speak to the men online who, don't receive this type of information well, right? Because
Right.
I've seen, especially with the word narcissist, I've seen so many memes. Everybody's a narcissist
Right,
now.
right.
How can you help us break it down for a man who might be watching, who might be like, oh, this is all a bunch of mumbo jumbo? Why you feel like it really is important to understand these concepts as you move through your own life?
Well, the first thing, as a man, it's a different responsibility. In my book, this is going to be controversial, but I think it takes more in life to be a stand-up man than a stand-up woman. And this is why.
Okay.
Because we have to always practice accountability. Not saying that women don't have to be accountable. That's not what I mean. But as a man, in anything you're doing, it always starts with you. It's always your fault. I'm speaking specifically of the things that go wrong. I'm not talking about the good things, because really, if you operating in your blessing, it's really no good or bad. It's all just experiences.
Yeah.
But specifically the bad, because those are the things that give you the tools to do better. It always has to start with you. If somebody steals from you, if somebody robs you, if a relationship don't go right, if a joke don't go over, if you're a little bit fat, if you're falling out with your friends.
You're saying that's the man's accountability?
It's always you first, because that's what makes.
We got this on tape?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm saying from a personal journey, though.
Yeah.
A personal journey, because you being the stronger of the sexes physically, not mentally, just physically. You're responsible for your own safety and the safety of those that you love. And so you can't get to a different space if you're not thinking in that way. You're not thinking in terms of safety. When something goes wrong, it's not necessarily that it's the wrong thing, but hey, I want to be able to make a safe mental passage or a safe physical passage to the next part of my life. So I have to own this moment, so I know that whatever went wrong here, it won't go wrong there. And so just the accountability thing. And when you're dealing with someone that's a narcissist, nothing is ever their fault.
Right.
They're going to gaslight you, always act like it's you. So that's how you separate yourself, and you stay connected to your feelings and the empathy that makes you a human being, not just somebody chasing a goal. And then also, too, you got to have fuck it money.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, even comedy, if it's something that's against my morals or how I feel as a man, fuck it. I'll walk away from it.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
Nothing is worth it. Nothing. I mean, we want to entertain people and make people laugh. I love making people laugh. But I'm telling you, if it came down to my mind and my sanity, I'm walking away from anything. None of this shit is really worth it. And I feel like if you have that mentality, if you're accountable and you're willing to walk away, you're going to give an honest product.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm kind of almost speechless hearing a man articulate about accountability. But we got it on tape, so it happened. But when you obviously are, like I said, a deep thinker, reflective, self-aware. How does that transition, or is that how you transition into being known for being the king of roasting people, right?
Yeah.
Is it because you're able to delve into somebody's pathology that then you can kind of get in there and fuck with them the most?
My roasting is about experiencing you, and I feel like I can tap into people's insecurities. So if I can tap into an insecurity, I'm never trying to out roast you. I'm just trying to have fun. So I just paint a picture. While most people are looking to embarrass the other person or try to out-funny them, that's not even my concern. Like, what is this situation telling me? And then just building up the confidence over the years to say exactly what the situation is telling me to say, not what I think it should be saying, So
and building up the confidence, I would think that's the hardest part, because we're trained and conditioned to not point out that person's insecurities. So then how or when did you find out you were really good at doing that?
I didn't know, because all my friends are monsters.
Okay.
Like, all my friends that aren't comedians are naturally funnier than most of my comedian friends. Like, if I brought my inner circle of people in here that I grew up roasting with, we all have our own different styles, but they're incredible too. So I never knew that I was good at it, because you got to remember, in comedy, I wasn't necessarily accepted like that at first, because I don't fit the mold. You know what I'm saying? I was a grown ass man. I was 27 when I started.
Yeah.
And Teddy Ray, rest in peace, my guy, He brought me up to All Def Digital for roast me. But a lot of them guys, we were cool in passing, but I didn't look like a comic to them, so they didn't really, you know, I didn't really have conversations with a lot of people. So just certain people. But so when the show happened, I always made people laugh, but when the show happened is when I realized that it was something that a lot of people can understand.
And so having a friend group that y'all are all beast in that way, and then starting to do stand up at 27, was it a hard transition? Because just because you can talk shit in the parking lot doesn't mean it's going to translate to the stage. What was your transition coming from being the funny guy in a funny group to being on stage by yourself doing stand up?
Okay, so for me, I had a cheat code because, I've been a rapper my whole life too.
Okay.
So I had 5 albums as a rapper before I ever told a joke. So I already had a formula and knew how to write from a perspective before I ever started writing jokes. So I was comfortable kind of being out there, What was the question one more time?
How did you translate from the group and being funny to being on stage
by
yourself?
All right, cool. So what happened was my boy Gary, him and his brothers, he got 4 brothers, and they're all funny like me. Excuse me. He got into like shooting with cameras and stuff. He bought a Canon. He started off first, he used to film skaters, skateboarding and doing tricks and shit. And then he started breaking out the camera and we would be roasting each other. And that was like my intro, like, oh, you know what I'm saying? And then I met this dude named AD who I still deal with. He kind of was my first big brother in comedy. He had an open mic. And my boy Aaron, who was in the circle of guys with the brothers, was like, hey, I know somebody who does an open mic out there. And where was it at? It was in Corona. He was like, you should go. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go. So I went there. He brought the camera, filmed. I bombed. I did terrible. You know what I mean? But I was like, I kind of enjoyed this because it reminded me of playing sports in high school because I grew up an athlete like that, feeling like before the game when your heart is beating.
Yeah, adrenaline going,
Yeah, and then I went back again a week later to the Comedy Union, which used to be a black-owned club owned by Enns Mitchell, and Memphis Will was the host. Memphis Will is a really talented comedian, but at this time, he was on a bringer show hustle, which means he was working his jokes out, but what he would do is have younger comedians bring audiences, and he would just tell jokes in front of their audience, but give them like 2 minutes of time. So he would do it like an hour. You bring 50 people, you get 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
So which was brilliant. Shout out to Memphis Will. So the next week I went to Memphis Will's place, and I just roasted, and I did cool for like 7 to 8 minutes, and then I just been doing comedy ever since.
So tell me, you've shared a few careers along the way. List every career you've had to this second.
Innumerable.
You were a trucker.
Yeah, so no, well, let's see. Okay, well, let's go back. So I was a college ball player. I cracked my tibial plateau, the medial part, so that they put 6 pins in my knee. And then so I couldn't play ball no more.
Okay.
So like a couple months after that, my mother had a stroke. So I had to hustle for a couple months. I can't say what I was doing.
Hustle.
So in that process of hustling, I stacked a little bit of money, and then I went to sell cars just for a little while so I didn't have to hustle no more. Then from selling cars, I got a job at Countrywide, Full Spectrum Lending. I was the person who was legally ripping you off by refinancing your home and taking you into what's called a pay option arm loan.
Okay.
On the phone, just doing crazy things. But they were legal at the time. They're not legal anymore. Then I made a little money there, but I left there, stacked a little bit of money, went to work for a company called Hilti as a territory manager. So I always worked in sales is what I'm saying. And I basically was responsible for the LA region, and I sold all of the power tools and epoxies and anchors to job sites. Then from there, I stacked a little bit more money. Then I worked for a company called Personnel Concepts.
Okay.
And that was another sales job. And then I took that bread, bought a truck, and I drove trucks for a while. And then I got into comedy about 8.5, 9 years later, sold the trucks, and then here I am today.
And so, but from comedy, what's the list from comedy?
Since I've been in comedy?
Yeah, you still have all these new titles.
Yeah.
Doing comedy.
Well, these niggas wasn't fucking with me at first. I'm going to just keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? So everything I do is based on rejection, which is a good thing.
Yeah, tell me about that, though.
So when I first got into comedy, I'm this big burly guy who thinks like a nerd, and it just looked weird a big guy trying to be smart on stage.
Right.
So I did that, got rejected, wasn't booking a lot of stuff, just because I didn't understand the game. Like you, I don't have any family that's in this business. Everybody is like blue collar.
Yeah.
On my dad's side, blue collar. On my mother's side, everybody's college educated. So I tried, and I was still working too. So I didn't just go into comedy full time. I was still driving trucks 50 to 70 hours a week, and then at night going to the comedy clubs and not even getting on stage, networking, and then sometimes getting on stage. So I did that for years, where I would work for a couple months, quit, get after I sold my truck, work, get on unemployment. Quit, get on unemployment, go back to telling jokes. That was like the cycle for years, and then I got connected with Corey Holcomb. So at the Improv, we roast each other every Monday. All the best comedians in the world go there, and we just roast the shit out of each other. And he was the first comedian to kind of like take me under his wing.
Okay.
He didn't like teach me anything directly and say, this is how you do this is how you do this. But as a man, proximity is everything. So he allowed me in his space. So I was able to see what he did. So 5150 was my first lesson on how to operate as a businessman in comedy, where I learned, it's bigger than the jokes. So then from 5150, Teddy Ray took me up to All Def Digital, and we started roast me at All Def Digital. But I don't think they thought it would be as big as it got, So then that happened, and then a couple years later, so now that this is like a 4-year span from the start of roast me till now. Then they got picked up by Caffeine. They did a season with Caffeine, and then no, I take that back. Then the quarantine happened. When the quarantine happened, I didn't want to sit in the house and do nothing, so I started a podcast, and it's called Kraig Facts, and I did that without missing a beat for almost 2 years, and I'm still doing it now, so we're almost 3 years later, but then I started doing the podcast, then Caffeine picked up Roast Me, then I hooked up with Caffeine, and here we are today.
So tell me, for those who don't know, what is Caffeine?
So Caffeine is an incredible live streaming app. If you are a creator, a content creator, and you're serious and you have a voice and you want to be a part of a progressive, forward-thinking company, Caffeine is definitely the place for you. Think YouTube on steroids. They really have a customized experience that allows your audience to get to know you better and kind of build a stronger tie. It really feels more like community as opposed to being a part of a big-ass crowd where nobody knows your name.
Yeah.
Caffeine is more interpersonal, where they really take content serious and they really enjoy talented people and they invest in talent. It's not necessarily a popularity contest, even though you being popular is a plus. They really work with people who have culture and understand how to be a part of things that are bigger than self. So Caffeine is different in that way.
And you have a bit of content on Caffeine, Comedy Press, or tell me about all of your assets that we can find on Caffeine.
Oh, wow, a ton of them. So we got the Roast with the Host morning show. So as a kid, I always wanted to have my own morning show that was funny, like Big Boy in the Morning. So I started Roast with the Host, but the difference between my show and other shows is that we interact directly with the audience, so people can call in via video chat on Discord and roast me personally. We roast each other. So it's based on roasting and just interacting with the fans. Then I have Kraig Facts. That's where I just come up with weird concepts for jokes. We just pander. Sometimes we take an edible, and we just be saying wild stuff. It's just
what is your most interesting Kraig fact, or your most memorable Kraig fact that you've dropped?
That kangaroos have 3 vaginas. A lot of people didn't know that.
A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Vaginas.
Good to know.
Yeah. That was one of the facts that got me the name. Corey Holcomb named me Kraig Facts because I would always have these weird facts, and I would say them on the show, and he thought I was lying. So he would do it in a joking way, like, that's a Kraig fact. That ain't no real shit.
I've never heard of that.
Yep, 3 vaginas.
Okay, well, I think that qualifies. Yeah. All right, and so and continue with what else we can find on Caffeine from you.
Okay, and then I also produce podcasts for, Brent Taylor, Todd. I think I produce like 7 or 8 other shows besides my own show.
Okay.
So it's really a podcasting network. I envision it being the CNN, ESPN of of entertainment where comedians report on what's happening in the world from the stage. So that's basically the idea behind the comedy press. That's what I'm elevating it to. But right now, it's really a podcast network for comedians and entertainers to bring their shows.
And tell me about roast dominoes.
Oh, roast dominoes. So, I'm about the everyday working man, and dominoes in our culture, spades and things like that, is something that everybody plays during the holidays. And I wanted to develop a league where families and friends could take games they normally play and become a professional at it. So I have a domino called the Roast Domino site, which will be up. We do the leagues here. You get ranked. We keep a schedule. And the idea is to take it and maybe tour and hit casinos and stuff like that. And it's just based around roast and shit talk. So you could just be able to be the most extreme version of yourself, roast and talk shit, make a little bit of money, and have fun while you do it.
Watching it is like watching your uncles at grandma's house.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's what. So, but in all of the properties that you're like producing or you're creating or you're writing, how much of that is still rooted in that initial rejection, or have you released the rejection and you're just building all of it? Is still the rejection still continues to.
Well, no, I mean, but the thing is, I mean, not like in a bad way. I'm just, know.
I mean, it's a motivator.
Yeah, everybody's feel my intensity level is different. If you meet me away from comedy and we just chilling, I'm a totally different person. I'm the same person, but I take it serious.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't care who you are. If you're Wayans, if you whatever family you come from, I want to be just as good as you are in a loving way, or contribute to what you're doing. So my every move is positioning myself to be taken serious and contribute to something bigger than myself. This industry is such a credits-based business that you have to do things for yourself in order to prove that you belong. And for me, there's only so many slots in Hollywood. So if I stood in that line and waited for somebody else to validate me, it would probably never happen because there's certain things that I just can't do. I can wait, but I feel like, less is more. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, they mistake activity for progress, where they go on all these auditions and they trying to meet all these people. But at the end of the day, they're not bringing something to the table bigger than themselves. So when you finally meet who you're supposed to meet, what they just supposed to like.
Right. You gotta have a library to bring to say I've been working the whole time, whether someone else was validating or saying keep going or not. You've obviously done that. We're in your studio space.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about this space and what was the vision when you got it and what you've done so far here.
So this is what I envisioned was a place where I could work at a Red Fox-like pace. Red Fox did 48 albums in 2 years. Wow. 48 comedy albums. It hasn't been done since, but I'm about to do that.
Okay.
So my thing is to be as close to stand-up as I can and position myself to get my ideas out as fast and as genuine as I can to whatever I was thinking when I thought it. So I had to put a place together where when I thought of a joke, I can get up there and record it and see where I'm at with it at that moment,
Cut out the gatekeepers. Don't build a band.
Exactly. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I know that there's nothing new under the sun. God has created millions of people like me. And so I don't need somebody else to tell me that I'm talented. I just need to position myself to be able to show that and then attract those to me who think like I think. And then as an army, we can go tell whoever we, want that, hey, he deserves an opportunity, So I just do things for, all those who are just like me, no matter what race or whatever you are. If you're a man and you pay taxes, if you're a woman and you hate your boss, whatever, you're just like me.
Yeah.
So, just do something where I could be genuine to that experience and do it fast, And that's why I put the studio together.
I love it. It's a beautiful space. It's a very impressive space. I'm already thinking of what could I come back in here and shoot. So you've mentioned wanting to be a superstar as far as on stage. You've mentioned wanting to build a CNN, ESPN type, broadcast channel. When someone meets Kraig Smith, you want them to walk away and say what? Other than he was just an average person, because you're not average. But what do you want people to walk away after they spend some time with you?
My breath didn't stink. I got enough going on in life where my breath is always minty. No, I want people.
That's important. That's important.
Yeah. I just want people to just take the fact that anybody can do it. Whatever it is, Like I come from humble beginnings, two hardworking parents. Finances or money is not something that I had growing up. My freshman year of high school, I had 3 pairs of pants and 7 shirts to last me for a semester, and I had to make the basketball team so I could have other gear to wear. You know what I'm saying? So I come from humble beginnings. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, just to realize that you can do it and that everything you need is inside of you. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking for somebody else to validate your greatness, they're never going to do it. It's never going to happen. If you're looking for people who you feel like owe you something to give you the respect that you deserve, they're never going to do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to do things because that's what you want to do. That's what you believe in. You know what I'm saying? And you got to surround yourself with like-minded people and just keep pushing, you know?
I love that. So tell us everywhere where we can find Kraig Smith.
Okay, so you can find me here on Caffeine at the Comedy Press. All you have to do is download that Caffeine app. Matter of fact, while you're watching, do it now.
Do it now.
Download the Caffeine app. Subscribe to the Comedy Press. You can find me here 20-plus hours a week, podcasting, roasting, cracking jokes. I'll also be, getting back on the road soon, so you'll be able to find me on different comedy clubs if you go to my website. You could also stream
What's
me.
your website?
It's thekraigsmith.com.
The with 2 E's.
2 E's and Kraig Smith. You can find me there. You could just find me working, hopefully in a movie soon or something big. You know, who knows? If not, I'm going to still be working.
This has been a pleasant treat for me. Just for me to wrap up, I had to do this stupid party trick. If a guy says he used to play football, I try to impress him by guessing what position he played.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see. I'm going to say, and I don't know this.
Right.
I'm going to say you were a defensive end.
I put on a little weight.
Are you?
Yeah. No, I played receiver, corner.
Oh, gosh, yeah,
and
no.
running back.
I would have thought you were, like, hitting people. Well, linebacker was my first guess, but
I
then
played
I thought
rover,
you had
too.
a little height, so I
played rover. I was very fast and athletic. No, I played rover.
Okay.
I was like 200 pounds when I graduated.
What threw me off? I didn't see your butt. Linebackers usually have big butts from the squatting. Check the butt next time. All right, Kraig Smith, thank you so much for allowing us into your space, giving us your time, giving us your insight, your wisdom, giving us your comedy.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Don't lock the door when we try to come back.
Oh, no, it's always open. Let's do it.
All right, if you wouldn't mind, shout out the Humor Mill and however you would do that.
Okay. Hey, shout out to Humor Mill Magazine. Love what y'all got going on. If I owe you something, get it from God. God. That's one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, cool.
That was great.
Yeah, thank you.